everybody, my name is Mrs Sharples and I'm an English teacher at Formley's Legion College. I really can't wait to meet you all once you start at school with us, and I'm so excited about the STEAM Award and the English components of that award. What I'm just going to do now is talk you through the English Bronze Award, which is the first award you will be achieving as part of the STEAM project. The Bronze Award is going to involve you writing an informal letter, and I know at primary school your teachers will have probably done a superb job with you on telling you how to write an informal letter, but we're just going to go over that now. You must submit a letter to yourself that you will not open until the year 2025. And in the letter you're going to be covering things such as what have you achieved in these 5 years, what are your next steps going to be, and what kind of world will we be living in. An informal letter is a letter usually written to somebody you know fairly well, such as a friend or a relative. The level of formality that you use in the letter will depend on how well you know the person. Now, as this is a letter to yourself, you know yourself very, very, very well, so there is that closeness. Even though you're going to be using a more informal tone than if you were writing a formal letter, it is very important you don't use slang or text language in your letter. Remember, you always need to write clearly and correctly using standard English. I'm just going to talk you through some examples of letters and then explain why they're formal or informal. So, example 1. Write a letter to a friend who is moving to your town. It's an example of an informal letter. A friend, somebody you know personally, and about a personal matter. Example 2. You've had a terrible meal at a local restaurant. Write a letter of complaint. Now this would be an example of a formal letter. You would not know the owner of the restaurant, and this is about a more public matter than a letter to a friend moving to your town. Number 3, your cousin who lives in Australia has invited you to visit him or her. Write your response to this invitation. Again, a cousin, somebody you know personally, this would be an example of an informal letter. You wish to change your school rules on uniform. Write a letter to the head teacher expressing your views. Even though you know Mrs O'Callaghan better than, say, the owner of the local restaurant, it is still a formal relationship, and this would be a serious matter proposing changing school uniform rules. Write a letter to your local MP to agitate for better leisure facilities for young people. Now, an MP is a member of Parliament, the man or the woman who sits in the House of Commons in London and is elected by the local people. So you would again not have a personal relationship with this MP. It would be a formal relationship, and again a formal serious matter, agitating, campaigning to get better leisure facilities. So that is a formal letter. Finally, a letter to a friend who's worried about starting at Formley would be informal. Obviously a personal relation with your friend and a personal topic. Right, the top right is where the address goes, the sender's address goes. Now here I just made up an address. This is not my address, it's Acacia Drive, Bolton BL6 7YT. So if you can just copy that address or make your own address up. Underneath the address is the date. So I have printed the 2nd of June 2020, but you just print the date that you write your letter. You then move across to the left-hand side of the page. The opening salutation, the opening greeting has to be of an informal nature. So, hi, Joe, hi would do perfectly well here. However, using dear Joe, dear would also be appropriate. Then you'd write the main body of your letter, organising your ideas into paragraphs. Here is going to be 3 paragraphs. Remember, starting a new topic, you start a new paragraph. Now, once you have finished writing your letter to your future self, you have to close off with a closing salutation. Now, this also must be informal, i.e. love, from, or best wishes, all equally appropriate. Here is an example. Dear future self, whatever you're doing now, stop. Go outside, get some fresh air, take a moment and have yourself a proper personal day. And don't you dare feel guilty for taking the time for yourself. These past 5 years have been crazy. You learned the lengths to which friendship can be tested and lost, and became a vegetarian. You've sat your GCSEs and now you're ready to start your A-levels. You've started thinking about going to university, though you're not sure whether or not you want to do an apprenticeship instead. Know that whatever decision you make, it was the right one. You're here now and you're exactly where you need to be. A couple of things to remember. You've learned how to honour and treat yourself well this year, and how to honour and treat those around you. Don't ever settle for the easy way. Just don't settle, period. Life is too short. And remember that this current version of yourself loves you, and that is not going to change. Best wishes, Sarah. So, there we've got that nice informal style and tone that we're looking for from your letters. Before you write the letter, you need to do some planning. So use these thought bubbles to think about what the content will be for these 3 separate paragraphs. What will you have learned or achieved in these next 5 years? What will your next steps be in life when you're in 2025? And what kind of world will you be living in?
To complete the English planning task, go to the STEAM Google Classroom. Once you're there, click on the task and complete it in the Google Slides. Make sure you remember to hand in your task.
Now, you've done your planning, you are now ready to focus on writing the letter. Remember, when you're writing, you really need to concentrate, so the writing is the very, very best product you can achieve. Moving on.
You should find some letter paper in your pack. Please submit this to Mrs Sharples when you start at Thornley Salesian College. You can hand this directly to Mrs Sharples.
Once you've finished writing your letter to your future self, you need to do some quality assurance, so you're handing in the very best product. You need to revise your writing and you need to edit it, something I call arms and cuts. So when you're revising your work, you need to add sentences or words, remove unnecessary words or sentences, perhaps move sentences or words around, or substitute words or sentences for others. That's just going to make your writing better quality. In terms of editing your work, I use the acronym CUPS. This will make your writing more accurate. Look at your capital letters, look at your usage of your nouns and your verbs, look at your punctuation, look at your spelling. If you notice any areas in your CUPS, make sure you correct them before you submit. This is what we're going to be looking at when we read your wonderful letters. Have you used the correct format for an informal letter? Have you set the address out? Is the opening salutation correct? Is the closing salutation correct? Have you organised ideas into paragraphs? Have you used some imaginative vocabulary? And finally, are you writing with a high degree of technical accuracy in terms of your spelling, punctuation and your grammar? Well done. Great job. You have completed your bronze task. Thank you very much.